Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you for watching. The Quran has a timeless quality that transcends the boundaries of human experience and perception of reality. The first three verses of chapter 69 of the Quran reflect on the complex nature of reality as we know it. When you are dreaming, how can you tell what the true reality is? Could our perception of reality be an elaborate illusion as well? Please keep this in mind during this work. This video firstly is about the meaning of verse 87 of chapter 15, which has been the topic of debate for centuries. And secondly, the mathematical structure of the Quran and its elegant and relevant number theory. In this work, by applying the elementary number theory, which consists of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of the small whole numbers, in the context of simple mathematical analysis, inshallah, we provide a valid, reliable, and precise meaning for verse 87. Verse 87 of chapter 15 of the Quran has been a topic of debate among religious leaders for centuries. Some believe the verse refers to chapter 1 of the Quran, while others believe it refers to other chapters. While these disputes arise from different perspectives and opinions, there are some facts about verse 87 and chapter 15 that are universally indisputable. For example, verse 87 is composed of exactly 7 words and is about 7 verses or chapters. Here we have 7 indisputable numbers. Number 15 is the chapter number. 87 is the verse number. 99 is the number of verses of the chapter. When we add these 3 numbers, we get 3 times 67. These are 5 of the 7 numbers. 87 is equal 3 times 29. 29 is the 6th. And 15 plus 99 give us 114, which is the number of chapters of the Quran. Inshallah, in the following 16 steps, we showed the elegant manner in which these 7 numbers, independent of human perspectives, provide us with an in-depth understanding of verse 87. The first 4 steps take us from the first chapter to chapter 15. The next 7 steps take us from chapter 15 to chapter 114, which is the last chapter of the Quran. And the last 5, independent of human opinion, provide the precise meaning of verse 87 in a self-evident way. Here, we begin by assuming that verse 87 of chapter 15 is related to the first chapter of the Quran. This is just an assumption at this point. In this case, the Bismillah is the first verse, and the chapter is made of 7 verses and 29 words. From here, number 29 is our guiding light and appears in almost every step of this work. The 29 thought-provoking cryptic codes of the Quran, known as Muqatta'at, immediately follow the 29 words of chapter 1. And the thought-provoking chapter on reality with 52 verses immediately follows chapter 68 with 52 verses. From its beginning, the Quran inspires curiosity, critical thinking, and discovery. Here we have the thought-provoking cryptic codes, the chapter on reality, and the matching numbers of 29 and 29 and 52 and 52. The 29 cryptic codes are organized in 14 patterns and use exactly 14 of the 29 Arabic alphabets, suggesting meaning and design. 1 in a million to be random or chance. Here again, we have the matching numbers of 14 and 14. The probability of 1 in a million chance means it is highly likely that these 2 matching numbers are by design. The 29 cryptic codes here are in an envelope of 67 chapters, and these are the most significant numbers as we're going to move forward. There are also 3 main patterns, A, B, and C. There are 5 of the A type, 6 of the B type and 7 of the C type. The three main patterns of A, B, and C divide the 29 cryptic codes into 4 distinct structures. 3 structures of 9 codes each, and a unique structure with only 2 codes. And each of the 4 structures has chapters with codes at the start and finish. So here we can see that the 5 that we have here, the last of these 5 completes the first structure. And here we have 6 of B type. You can see that the last of the 6 complete the second structure. And here we have the 7 type, the C type, 7 of the C types, and then this, the last one of them is completed in third structure. These two have a different structural positions, and inshallah you will see that why as we move forward. You also see that there are some chapters in here, like between 3 and 7 and between 7 and 10, that they don't have codes. And we have that in every one of these 4. The codes make the structures of these 4 units, and then they have some chapters that they don't have the codes in them. You also see that every one of these 3 is completed with a set of consecutive chapters that have the codes. Like our first structure, we have 6 consecutive ones from 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Chapter 51, that has verse 87, is the last chapter of the first structure here. It's the blue arrow here. This is chapter 51. And if you look at here, you can see that if you add 2, 3, 7, 10, all the way to 15, it's add up to 87, which is also the verse 87. You know, it's like the same number. But it's also 3 times 29. And when you add the number of letters that are in these 9 codes, you see that that also adds to number 29. Each of the 4 structures here has chapters with codes at the beginning and the end. There are some codeless chapters within the 4 structures, and between the structures there are exactly 3 codeless chapters. Number 29 is significant in the first structure here, but it is also significant in all of the structures. Here the trees are together 9 codeless chapters. And we know that we have 29 chapters with codes in these 4 structures. But we also have exactly 29 words that don't have the codes, and they are in these 4 structures. And here you can see that in the first structure there are 5 that don't have codes, and you can see number 14 appears here. And here there are 9 codes, and then this structure also have 5 chapters that don't have the codes, and here also you see the matching number 14 and the 14. And then over here we have 9 that have the codes, 2 that don't have the codes, and here we have 2 codes, but then we have 17 chapters between the 2 codes that don't have the codes. We reflected briefly on these 7 chapters and their 2 codes, and these 5. So there are 29 chapters with codes and 29 codeless chapters inside the 4 structures. And the first and all of the 4 structures highlight the significance of the number 29 as well as the complex design. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Here we are at the beginning of the 7 steps that inshallah is going to take us to chapter 114. The numbers and equations in this work are beautiful and miracle. That's why we have flowers. Number theory is beautiful, and especially the numbers we have here are really elegant and beautiful. Here we have chapter 15 and number 29 and 87, which is equal to 3 times 29 here, are linked to the context of chapter 15. Here we have the midpoint and the endpoint. The midpoint was the main part of our last discussion, the midpoints of the Quran. The whole discussion was about the midpoint of the Quran. In this discussion, midpoint is very significant as well. We begin this work with 99, which is the number of verses of chapter 15. This is going to be our roadmap that take us all the way to chapter 114. We can write 99 as equal to 3 times 33, or we can write it as 33 plus 33 plus 33. We also know that 15 plus 99 is equal 114. In the first part, we're going to add 33 to number 15 and we get chapter 48. In the second part, we add number 48 to number 33 and we get chapter 81. And in the third part, we add number 33 to 81 and we get number 114. Here you notice that chapter 81 is the midpoint between chapter 48 is the midpoint between chapter 15 and 81, and chapter 81 is the midpoint between chapter 48 and 114. Now we're going to go to chapter 48. Here we are at chapter 48 now. We have added 33 to 15, which is equal to 48, and that's why we are here. And now we can see that chapter 48 is composed of exactly 29 verses. Now we're going to the next step. We're going to add another 33 to 48. Here we are at chapter 81 now. Chapter 81 is composed of exactly 29 verses each. Now chapter 81 and chapter 48 are the midpoints, and they have a very beautiful relationship between both of them. So we're going to look at that relationship next. The relationship between chapter 48 and 81, the two midpoints, and number 29 is deep, relevant, and fascinating and rare, because in number theory you usually don't find things that you can really explain them in a meaningful way, but they are beautiful. But here you can. There are 29 verses in chapter 48 and 29 verses in chapter 81 that we know. And when we add number 48 with 81, again, we get the number 29 in the form of 129. That is the number of verses of chapter 9 of the Quran, and we reflected on chapter 9 and 27 and 1 in earlier discussions. Now if we add the total number of verses from chapter 48 to chapter 81, we get 1246. We have color coded the numbers here. Now if you change the places of the first two digits, which is 12, with that of the second two digits, which is 46, we get number 4612. This is a way the number theory of Quran works. Now, here you can see that the total verses from the first chapter of the Quran, to chapter 88, counting the verses for chapter 1 and 48 as well, is 46:12, and that also adds up to 2 times 29. Now you notice here that the total verses after chapter 48, which is from chapter 49 to 114, is 1624. That also uses the same 4 integers that we had earlier. Now 1624 is equal 7 times 8 times 29. Now when we add 4612 plus 1624, we get the total, as expected, we get the total verses of the Quran, which are 6236. In a way, you can describe the total verses in terms of 2 4-digit numbers that have exactly the same integers. Now when we add the 1246 plus 1624 plus 4612, once again, we get 258 times 29, and 58 itself is equal to 2 times 29, and a very significant number, as we see in next one. And you also see that if you add 1246 with 4612, you get 5858. And you see that if you add the first 58 with the second 58, you get 4 times 29. A very significant number, 4 times 29. And the number itself is 202 times 29. While with every step we get closer to the meaning of verse 87, inshallah. Now we are still on chapter 81. We know that chapter 81 is composed of exactly 29 verses. But the total number of verses from chapter 1, where we started, which has 29 words, to the conclusion of chapter 81, which has 29 verses, is also exactly 5829. The last 2 digits is number 29. The first 2 digits is 2 times 29. And of course, they give us number 87. And 5829 equal 201 times 29 is an extremely significant number. The greatest miracle in the Quran, which is now here. The number of verses of the Quran at the conclusion of chapter 81, 5829, is the ideal number for the ideal location. Indeed, perfect number for perfect location. Chapter 81 is the midway point in a set of precisely 67 chapters. From chapter 48 to 114, and number 5829 is of the kind that creates number 67. And here are two examples. Now for number 2814, you see that the first two digits are twice the next two digits, which is 14. And for the second one, you see the same thing. 46 is twice 23. And you can see that they generate number 67. Both of them. And 5829 is all the same thing, because 58 is twice 29. So 5829 is equal to 29 times 3 times 67. And you can see these numbers right up there. You can see the equation also as 15 plus 87 plus 99 is equal to 3 times 67 that we have. So we can write the equation of 5829 in terms of the numbers of chapter 15, which would be 29 times 15 plus 87, which is the verse number, and 99, which is the chapter verses. And you also see that 5829 give us 67, which is the number of chapters in this group of 67 chapters, and also give us 87, which is the number of verse in chapter 15. Now here we have added up all of the chapter numbers from 48 all the way to 114, and we have 5427, and you can see that this number is also made of the same materials that 5829 is. The first two digits, 54, is twice 27. So number 5427 is of the same kind as 5829. Create number 67. $5,427 is 27 times 3 times 67, which is the sum of the 15, 87, and 99. And subtracting them from 5829, we get 2 times 3 times 67. And we can write 5427 as equal to 27 times 15 plus 87 plus 99, which are the three significant numbers of chapter 15. you also see that 5,427 is equal 67 times 81. That tell us there are exactly 67 chapters from 48 to 114, and the midpoint of the 67 chapters is chapter 81. Now here we have the same numbers, the number of some of the chapter numbers, and these 67 chapters share the two codes of Qaf, which is in chapter 50, and Nun, which is in chapter 68, with the 67 chapters that contain the 29 cryptic codes. So here you can see that Qaf and Nun are also related to these 67 chapters. Now from chapter 2 to chapter 114, the two groups of 67 chapters form a mathematical framework of 113 chapters. And this will be proved, inshallah, using three-way matching. Number 29, chapter numbers, and chapter verses. Here you can see when we put them together, we have 113 chapters. There are 21 chapters that are shared by both groups. And the Qaf and the Nun are in this shared area. You also see that before the 21 chapters, we have 46 chapters, and after that also we have 46 chapters. Very significant number, especially number 23 is extremely significant, almost like 29, and inshallah it has its own discussion. Now here you can see that the perfect match, if you add 2 to 114, you get 4 times 29. 3 to 113, you get 4 times 29. 47 plus 69, which is the chapter of reality, you get 4 times 29. And 48 plus 68 is equal 4 times 29. So there is perfect connection between the two. Now we look at the chapter numbers. Perfect match here too, and beautiful numbers. The total of the chapter numbers 48 and to 114 is 5,427. That's a very beautiful number already, we know that. It can generate 67. The total of chapter numbers from chapter 2 to 68 is also a very beautiful number, composed of 4 consecutive numbers of digits of 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we add these two numbers together, we get another beautiful number, 7772. And 7772 is equal to 4 times 29 that we had in the previous page times 67. That is a significant number here. Chapter verses, the miracle of the Quran's number theory. It is. Every number and equation is a miracle. Okay. The total number of verses in the 67 chapters of the 29 codes from 2 to 68 is 5,316. We have color coded this one. The first two digits are red and the second two digits are blue. Now we have number 1653, 1653, which have the same integers. We only change the position and places of the first two digits with the second two digits. Now we see that 1653 is the total number of verses in the 67 chapters from 48 to 114. So the first group, the total number of verses of the 67 chapters is 5,316, and for the second group, that starts from 48 and stretches all the way to 114, is 1653, that has the same integers and a beautiful arrangement. You also see that 1653 is also 3 times 19 times 29, which is connecting it to all the other two steps in this case. Findings. The first findings is verse 88 of chapter 17, when Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala tells us, if the entire universe come together to create something like the Quran, they cannot do it. They cannot do it. And the reason is because we are mortals. We are, living in realities that they are not real. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala knows everything. And Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala is great. Now, other findings are verse 87 of chapter 15, as you can see. Verse 87 of chapter 15 and chapter 1 are correlated. So verse 87 is referring to chapter 1 of the Quran. The next one is that the Quran is divine, deep, timeless, and has a mathematical fabric, as you have seen in our videos. That the Quran and number theory are correlated. and that reality as we know it is an intricate illusion, that the Quran appears to have more than one mathematical framework. Inshallah, we continue these works in next discussion. God bless you and everyone around you and us, and have a nice day.